Centuries ago, the legendary Alexander the Great decided to pay a visit to a philosopher by the name of Diogenes, who resided in the city of Corinth. In that era, many philosophers and statesmen were eager to meet the renowned Greek king of Macedon. However, Diogenes, a philosopher of the Cynic school, displayed no interest in him. Instead, he took pleasure in relaxing within his barrel, surrounded by his closest companions, his dogs. It was perhaps Diogenes' complete indifference that piqued Alexander's curiosity. When Alexander went searching for Diogenes in a Corinthian suburb, he discovered the philosopher basking in the sunlight. Alexander greeted him and inquired, "Is there anything you wish from me?" To this, the Cynic philosopher replied, "Yes, please stand aside a bit and let my sun shine through." Alexander the Great was profoundly impressed by Diogenes' arrogance and detachment, especially when considering his own position and stature. Shortly afterward, he remarked to his followers, "But truly, if I were not Alexander, I wish I were Diogenes." Diogenes, by remaining indifferent to Alexander's wealth and status, preserved his independence and authenticity. He remained unchanged in the presence of the mighty king. Unlike many others, he didn't seek approval from Alexander, nor did he fear his disapproval. Consequently, even though Alexander the Great was one of the most influential figures of his time, he had no power over Diogenes. Why? The answer lies in indifference. Diogenes simply did not care, rendering himself impervious to external influence. Indifference is often seen as a negative trait, associated with a lack of empathy or concern for others. However, as the examples in this essay will illustrate, indifference can be a potent and versatile tool. This video delves into the power of indifference, unveiling 5 advantages of embracing indifference. 1. Freedom and authenticity. Many individuals tend to conform to societal norms, following the crowd and adhering to a predetermined path in life. This approach, while providing safety and security, can also shield them from criticism and rejection by the majority. However, those who choose to deviate from this well-trodden path often face criticism, ridicule, or even exclusion. People are usually quite sensitive to the opinions of others and fear the prospect of not fitting in, experiencing rejection, or being left behind. Yet, as philosophers like Arthur Schopenhauer and the Stoics have emphasized, the opinions of others are not as significant as we often perceive them to be. When we aspire to pursue our dreams or project a persona that aligns better with our true selves, we must exhibit indifference to certain societal conventions and the judgments of others. Ralph Waldo Emerson, in his essay Self-Reliance, argues that although society exerts pressure on us to conform, we should strive to remain true to ourselves and to cultivate independent thinking. We ought not to depend on the opinions of others, but should place trust in our own judgments. Emerson supports the notion of indifference toward the views of others while simultaneously encouraging confidence in oneself. However, he also cautions against complete isolation from the world, emphasizing that genuine authenticity is achieved when we can maintain our independence of thought even amid the crowd. He writes, "It is easy in the world to live after the world's opinion. It is easy in solitude to live after our own. But the great man is he who in the midst of the crowd keeps with perfect sweetness the independence of solitude." In terms of freedom and authenticity, the power of indifference manifests in the liberty we attain by staying true to ourselves and not relying on the judgments of others. This freedom allows us to pursue our aspirations and live authentically, even if it means straying from societal conventions. The story of Diogenes mentioned at the outset of this video serves as an exemplary illustration of someone who disregarded the opinions of others and chose to live life on their own terms. 2. Emotional resilience. In the ancient Greek city of Nicopolis, a visitor once expressed his deep concern to Epictetus, a prominent Stoic philosopher. He feared for his life, believing that the emperor might imprison him or exile him from Rome. However, Epictetus argued that such events were beyond their control. The only thing truly within their power was their will, or put differently, their attitude toward these events. Why is this perspective important? According to the Stoics, Our emotional response to our circumstances is heavily influenced by our attitude. The quality of our thoughts plays a pivotal role in how we confront adversity. Suppose we hold the belief that being imprisoned or banished is a terrible fate. In that case, we will experience horror when faced with such circumstances and become emotionally distraught as a result. However, if we adopt the view that such events are merely components of the universe's natural order, over which we have no control and are neither inherently good nor bad, we become emotionally resilient and can better cope when they occur. The Stoics assert that, regardless of our hardships, we retain the power to choose our attitude. We should approach everything beyond our control with indifference, as Epictetus referred to it, contempt for things outside our control, contrasting them with those within our control, such as our opinions, pursuits, and actions, stemming from our capacity to choose. The power of indifference, in the Stoic sense, lies in our ability to distinguish between what we can control and what we cannot. It involves caring less about the latter, enabling our minds to remain tranquil in all circumstances, as Epictetus described it, in a state conformable to nature. By practicing indifference toward things beyond our control, we remove the emotional fuel that leads to inner turmoil. So if you find yourself imprisoned, it is what it is. What matters is how you choose to spend your time there. Similarly, if a romantic partner betrays your trust, it can be expected, as human beings often prioritize their desires over their integrity, and some may lack integrity altogether. You cannot compel them to act differently. From a Stoic standpoint, what's within your control is your focus on your well-being and the well-being of others, partly by distancing yourself from someone who doesn't align with your values. 3. Enhanced performance. In ancient China, a young woman took part in an archery competition. Her hands trembled with nervousness as she aimed her bow. Despite her strong determination to win and provide much-needed financial support to her family, her performance in the tournament was subpar. This disappointing outcome left her devastated, and she pondered, "During practice, I rarely miss the mark, but in a competition, all I do is miss." The young archer's story underscores how our attachment to specific outcomes can hinder our performance, leading to emotional distress and self-doubt. She felt a desperate need to achieve a particular outcome, driven by the urgency of helping her family. This attachment clouded her ability to perform at her best. The pressure of thoughts like, "What if I don't win and my family suffers? I must win. Losing is not an option," created immense stress, causing her performance to deteriorate. In many instances, such as this one, the more we try to excel under the weight of our attachment to a specific outcome, the worse our performance becomes. This phenomenon aligns with the concept of the law of reversed effort, as explored in a previous video. Conversely, when we approach situations with an attitude of indifference, we are less likely to become emotionally entangled with particular outcomes. Instead, we focus on the process and the effort we put forth, rather than fixating on the end result. By practicing indifference toward outcomes, we can cultivate a sense of detachment from external events, reducing the anxiety that holds us back. This allows us to be fully present in the moment and take pleasure in the act of performing, rather than being consumed by the outcome. By adopting this approach, we can experience greater inner peace, reduce the risk of emotional distress, and ultimately enhance our performance in various situations. 4. Affordable contentment. In a previous video about minimalism, we explored the story of Xu Yu, a Taoist sage who sat by the riverside and declined the opportunity to ascend to the throne of a kingdom. His reasoning was that he didn't need to rule over all under heaven because it would disrupt his desire for a simple and tranquil life. Xu Yu's indifference toward an opportunity for power that most people could only dream of and often pursue relentlessly stemmed from his preference for a life filled with simple pleasures and contentment. As a Taoist sage, he believed that the pursuit of power and wealth would only serve to complicate his life and disturb his inner peace. Essentially, Xu Yu valued affordable contentment achieved through the enjoyment of life's simple pleasures over the pursuit of material abundance and status. This perspective is not unique to Taoism. The ancient Greek philosopher Epicurus shared a similar outlook. Epicurus advocated focusing on simple, natural, and necessary pleasures rather than indulging in vain and excessive desires. He stated, "If you want to make a man happy, add not unto his riches, but take away from his desires." In other words, by cultivating indifference toward the allure and extravagance of the world, we are better off than trying to satiate our numerous desires, which are often insatiable. Both philosophical approaches share a common objective: achieving contentment or a state of tranquility, also known as ataraxia, which arises when our desires find satisfaction. Consequently, having fewer desires makes it easier to find contentment, whereas an insatiable desire for more can make satisfaction nearly impossible to attain. So, which option is the most affordable and sustainable? Indifference to empty and fleeting pleasures, such as extreme wealth and power, provides us with the opportunity to find contentment with less and to appreciate life's simple joys. 5. Rational and objective decision-making. When we maintain indifference toward our emotional states and biases, we are better equipped to analyze situations and make decisions grounded in facts and logic, rather than being swayed by our feelings or preconceived notions. Our biases and emotional states can cloud our judgment and lead us to make choices based on our desires or emotions rather than what is most beneficial for the given circumstance. For instance, emotional attachment to a specific outcome can lead to decisions that are not in our best interest. Similarly, bias towards a particular group or idea can hinder us from considering all available options, resulting in irrational decisions. When we approach a situation with an indifferent mindset, we are more inclined to weigh all available information and make decisions solely based on objective facts and logic. In doing so, we shield ourselves from being led astray by our emotions and biases. Consider this scenario. You are a manager tasked with selecting an employee for a promotion. If you hold a bias toward a particular employee due to their personal characteristics, you may be inclined to favor them over another employee who is more qualified for the position. However, by approaching the decision with indifference to bias, whether personal or societal, you are more likely to objectively assess each employee's qualifications and make a choice based on their merit. Indifference may seem like a paradoxical concept, appearing empty yet wielding substantial power. It is a subtle yet potent force that enables us to release attachments to what doesn't truly matter, allowing the significance of what does matter to shine through. Thank you for watching.